Hello and welcome to this week's Record Rangers podcast. I'm on hosting duties this week. My name's Douglas Dickie. I'm here to give the fans' eye view from all things at Ibrox. I'm joined by my erstwhile colleagues, Scott McDermott and Andy Newport, to discuss all the latest goings on. Gentlemen, the Rangers title juggernaut rolls on once more at Pittodrie. I don't think I can recall a more comfortable victory up there for a long, long time. Speaking to a friend of mine who's got a bit of an encyclopedic knowledge of Rangers games, we had to go back to 2001 where we felt there was a game quite as stress-free up there. It was a really professional performance.
I was going to say, I'll answer this soon as Andy didn't bother making it. I'll just trip up to
I had to Easter Road with Highway on Saturday,
so fought through the storm. I had to be there. Douglas, no, you're right, very comfortable. Comfortable win, good performance. People talk about how poor Aberdeen were on the night. But I think when you go there, irrespective of how good the opposition are, your attitude's got to be spot on. And that was the thing that impressed me most about that Rangers performance. I've criticised these players, it feels, for the last few years about attitude, application, desire, hunger, all those attributes. And I felt they were all there. I think when you go into a game like that, it's always going to be tricky because of the nature of the fixture. You throw in the conditions as well, the pressure they're under to go and win, given the league position. I thought they were terrific. I thought their attitude was spot on. They kind of matched Aberdeen's kind of work rate, determination, if you like, for the start, and then you always hope that the quality will shine through, and that's what I thought. They scored the first goal. Obviously, they got another goal disallowed, which we'll probably talk about, which I thought was really harsh. And it was just a case of them getting that second goal. Missed a couple of big chances. I think Shamiti has to score his chance.
Very similar to his chance at Parkhead. He did score.
I know. I think he has to put chances like that away. Raskin missing a good chance from the headers, a few others. The keeper saved. It was just a case of getting that second goal, so they got it. And it ended up a really, really comfortable win.
I mean, just what you're asking, I can remember a Steven Gerrard team got up there. I think Jermaine Defoe scored late on, but I'm struggling to think of one.
I was up there that night, and it was 3-1. I think it was 3-1 at half time, and I think Aberdeen get back in it, and there was a bit of it. You're right.
So I think it ended up
4-2.
I mean, I'm struggling to think of any other ones that obviously I think hadn't won. Was it 2-3 years previous to
there was one under Kachina where we scored 3 in the last 15 minutes, which put a gloss on a scoreline.
So you're absolutely right. Pittodrie notoriously, traditionally, has never been an easy place for Rangers to go. Obviously, the fans up there always make it very hostile. We add in the conditions. The park was pretty much a bog, a quagmire. You had all the trappings of a banana skin for Rangers, but I think the impressive thing is that something I don't think they've done enough this season. They scored early. They get that breakthrough, and they were comfortable. As you say, the goal that Fernandes scores, harsh in the sort of common sense view of football, but I think by the letter of the law, it was probably the correct decision. But I think that's again what's kind of impressive about this Rangers team. I think in days gone by, that might have been the kind of moment that would have thrown them off. They would have lost their way, but they didn't. And I think what has been the criticism aimed at this Rangers team for a number of seasons now is that they play in moments, they play in fits and spurts. I think that was as controlled a 90-minute performance as I've seen from a Rangers team, especially at venues as intimidating as Pittodrie for a long, long time.
See scoring early, as Andy says, I think a big part of this now is the set pieces. You can't emphasise it enough how important it is, and it feels crazy that we're talking about this as almost revolutionary. The amount of set pieces Rangers get, they should have had a set piece coach years before now, but it genuinely feels like every time they get a corner or a free kick, after their rivalry, Scott Fry, obviously. I
liked how against Aberdeen at Ibrox they kept putting him on the screen every time with a call. And everyone was
that does help when you get a guy at 6'5", right enough.
That does help. But they genuinely look a threat now. And that, as Andy says, in tight games or difficult venues, even difficult conditions, wee things like that, the fine margins are so crucial.
It does also feel like there's a bit of an aura grown up.
Yeah.
Whenever Rangers now, they take a corner, a bit of Ibrox, the place lifts a wee bit, and you can see opposition teams going, oh no, here they come, the cavalry's coming, or the big giants, land of the giants in there, they're just going to throw a ball up in there, and it doesn't matter how good a delivery it is, Fernandes will get in the end of it. So, even that fear factor, I think the teams start, undoubtedly at some point along the road, they will find out some way of stopping Rangers, whether it be blocking them off, but right now it seems like a lot of teams, especially Aberdeen, given that they conceded 3, possibly 4 goals for set pieces. It feels like they're double thinking themselves. They're overthinking in terms, and that's how they're getting caught out. They've got too much in their minds.
I like the fact there's a bit of creativity to it as well.
We've seen that with the first goal.
Exactly. I mean, that goal that Asgard scored, that's the second time that he scored that goal for the short corner. The other one was with a header, I guess, it won. So there is creativity. I noticed people online as well talking about this kind of delay tactic that they've got when they're I hadn't really noticed until I heard people talking about it. Delaying and it just causes a wee bit of unrest in the box before the delivery goes in. So, this guy's obviously very thorough. That's why he's in the job. But it's paying dividends for Rangers now.
What was his track record at Lincoln when you did a piece last week?
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln scored 30 goals for set pieces.
I mean, that's
it's incredible. It's the highest in Europe.
The flip side of it for me is this sustainable? They score so many goals from set pieces.
No, I don't think it has to be sustainable. I think Welsh right now they're not scoring
because we're only really the last few games
they're not really scoring from open play. So this is a nice added weapon to have. What will take the pressure off the set piece? And as I say, I think teams will eventually come up with systems and ways of stopping it. Is to then add another string to the bow. And I think that's obviously what they're trying to do now in the transfer window. Obviously, talking about even at fullback. I mean, I don't think Mike Homa's had a terrific output in terms of assists and goals himself, but they're obviously looking to bring in Joe Romans from Westerlo. It looks like he is a guy that can get up and down the line and can deliver crosses into the box. Obviously, there's talk of Skov coming in the right hand side, a winger that has been known to score a lot of some goals.
That'd be a very exciting signing.
So obviously, what I'm saying is that right now, with the squad that they've got, he's making full use of their set piece because it's an additional weapon they've got. But as you saw at Celtic Park, the team is capable of scoring goals from from different areas.
It can be sustainable. I think as long as there's creativity and invention and Scott Fry keeps mixing it up. But as long as the delivery's there, I mean, as Andy said, I did a piece a couple of weeks ago with Ethan Errol, who was at Lincoln and played under him last season. Was involved in the set pieces. And it sounds an obvious thing to say, but the key thing is delivery. I mean, Ethan had said that as soon as Scott Fry went in at Lincoln, we immediately identified the guy or a couple of guys that were going to have pinpoint deliveries. Obviously done that here with Tavernier. I think Barron's been on them.
Even that, he's changed. I mean, he's obviously changed it up because Gordon Barron was never anywhere near set pieces.
He's obviously seen something in Barron. The other crucial thing about it is second phase at set pieces. Apparently he was massive on that at Lincoln. And you see it now whenever Rangers get a set piece. If it is cleared, the big guys are just told stay up and stay at the back post, and it's immediately put back in. That's his big thing. It immediately goes back into a certain area. So
that with Fernandes, I think, was it St Mirren as well?
That's right.
They
do it every time. So I think as long as the delivery is good, which you'd think it would be with Tavernier and even Magoma the other night, if it's in swinging for the other side. And as Andy says, while you've got Fernandes and even guys like Asgard who is a danger in the box in terms of his kind of physicality.
Raskin with his leaf as well.
Yep. I think it could be sustainable. And we're going to talk about the title race, but there's 3 teams going for the title. It looks at the moment as if it's going to be fairly tight. These wee things, set pieces by the end of the season, could be absolutely crucial.
I mean, you mentioned a couple of players to maybe highlight. You mentioned Asgard. He's suddenly started finding the net. He's been very disappointing thus far.
Yeah.
I think he was one of the summer signings that, judging for the forums and speaking to guys in a pub, there was guys thought he might come in and make a difference. In that kind of almost a number 10 role. It's not really worked out for him. Have you seen improvement? He obviously was disappointed at Celtic Park. I think the booking at Celtic Park played in his mind. He'd obviously been sent off the last time.
I've just written a piece for the website about him this morning. Should be in the paper tomorrow as well. Just discussing that very point. And I think he was one of the guys. I think the crowd here can be quick to leap to first impressions, and I think he was certainly one of the guys, and I can think of 3 or 4 that really struggled under the Russell Martin, that dogmatic style of play, locked into a position, not given that license to run and to move and to roam that Danny Rose seems to have given them. I'm thinking guys like, certainly Mikey Moore really struggled early on. Obviously Nico Raskin as well didn't seem to get it, and I think Asgard as well. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's dissuade all those concerns, because I think he has been poor for a large part of the season, but I think bit by bit, slowly but surely, he's shown more signs, and I think it's maybe just been a case of his confidence taking such a hit, as the whole squad's did early on, but especially him, because people were looking at him to be that X-Factor player, and he just hasn't shown it. But I think he's obviously got a goal against Motherwell, goal against St Mirren, obviously gets the goal up at Pittodrie the other night. Yeah, gets taken off at Celtic Park, but I definitely think he's been asked to be aggressive and get in the faces of Celtic in that first half, and that early booking just sort of killed that. And Celtic were
with them in the semi-final as well. I think
exactly.
Playing in
he's even that sending off at Hampden. It screamed at a guy that was just desperate to make an impression. Unfortunately, the only impression he made was a 6-stud boot print in Tony Nelson's stomach. But he was definitely. I think there's an over-eagerness to him. I mean, we saw that goal he scored against Dundee United. I think just when Stevie Smith was in charge before Danny Rowe came in, you think, well, this is what this guy's got to offer. That ability just to run, to open up, get the legs opened up. But Danny Rowe spoke a wee bit how they've shifted actually from the left-hand inside channel to the right, just because his body shape, he was connecting, he was having to work the ball onto a stronger foot, and he almost at times take too many touches. That was when he was allowing to get closed down. But I definitely think he needs to go up a level or two in terms of just the basics, keeping the ball, winning the ball back. And I thought you saw signs of that at Aberdeen. It was his, without it being spectacular, it was his cleanest performance I've seen him in a 90 minutes as well, because I think that's only the second time he's completed a 90 minutes in the league, certainly since he's come.
I think, Scott, one of the biggest complaints me and a lot of other fans had about Asgard was his mentality over his actual ability. You can see, the ball sticks to him. He can hold on to it well. He's clearly a player that's got ability. There was questions over that mentality. He seemed to just kind of float around the pitch at times, not really aware of where he was or what was going on. Are you seeing improvement there?
Slight improvement. I still think there's a long way to go. I totally agree with you. I mean, at times this season, he's looked as if he's just been playing his own game, just in his own wee world at times, which he just can't do. And after Celtic Park, I thought he was really poor that first half. I know what you're saying about the booking and that, but just in general, taking too many touches. And he must have been told that week about what that fixture was going to be like and how you're not going to get time in the ball, and yet he was caught in possession far too many times. And I worried after that. I remember speaking to people just saying, as it stands, you can't trust this guy to play in a big away game like that. You just can't do it because he's a passenger. That's where I was impressed with him at Pittodrie. It looked as if he'd taken whatever Danny Rose told him on board. And when the team sheet came out the other night, I think eyebrows were raised. We were talking about it before the game on the way up, how the manager might try and shore it up. We thought maybe Tavernier might get into midfield and Aaron's going back to right back just to be a bit more solid. When Asgard's in the number 10 away from home at Pittodrie in those conditions, I feared for him, but credit to him, he stood up to it. He was a lot more, he wasn't taking as many touches. Thought he put in a better shift for the team. Not always eye-catching or on the ball, but in terms of the overall performance of the team, and I thought that'll do him the world of good, especially getting the goal.
It kind of reminded me of what Danny Rowe spoken about with Trinity. It's like, okay, you might not be scoring every week, but you can still do the team a turn just by work rate. And I felt that's what Asgard did. Yeah. His work rate was up. As you say, he was cleaner with his passing. Not spectacular 40-yard, crossfield balls. But just enough to keep Rangers' momentum going forward. Yeah, and just so I felt that was his the big difference in his game. He was cleaner, but he was busier, and he was certainly more more of a presence in the midfield.
He was doing a job for the team, basically. He actually sat when Leighton Clarkson at the start of the game tried to stop him playing, and it worked really for Rangers. But Danny Rowell said in his post-match, I think he said in the last sentence to them before I went out was, even the attacking players think about defending, think about defence. And I think Asgard's obviously taking that on board.
Another player who's impressed over the last couple of weeks is Diamandi. Now, I was a big fan of Diamandi when we first signed him. I thought he came into the team and made a real impact. Since then, he's struggled a little bit. Since he came on against Celtic in that second half, ironically for Asgard, he seems to have went up a wee level. Now, of course, we've been here before with him.
Yeah.
Can he sustain that?
Consistency's always been the thing with Diamandi. You've seen his top level. I'm thinking Celtic Park last season under Barry Ferguson's Fenerbahce away. Looked terrific. And then the couple of weeks after, he's getting given the runaround at Dundee, he's getting given the runaround at St Mirren. That's always been the thing, getting them up and getting them to maintain levels. Right now, he's up, but it surprised me if in a couple of weeks he was down again. Not at all, and I think that's why Rangers are looking to obviously bring in Tochi Chukwueze. They need somebody else in there that is a commanding presence, a physical effort, a physical player that can go box to box. I think on his day, Diamandi, is more than good enough. But the trouble is, his day isn't often enough.
I think that the thing for me with Diamandi is you need to realise what he is and what he's not. Basically, to me, he is and always has been a runner in midfield. He's a guy that will rat about. He'll get in people's faces. He'll try and win the ball back for you. He's good at pressing. He's not a guy that's going to open up defences for you or get goals or come up with killer passes.
He has scored a few goals though, a few big goals.
He has, but
he's always sort of running off the shoulder sort of thing. Yeah, he's always a guy.
To me, he's not a actual goal scorer for midfield. As I say, I think you use him in the right circumstances. The other night, that game's perfect for him. It's why I think he should have started. Though I would always play Diamandi at Parkhead. We know that it's going to be that type of game. As Andy says, with Chukwueze coming in, you would think he'll be I know he's said in his interview he can play everywhere in midfield, but you've got to think he'll be the sitter and the number 6. So it'll be interesting to see how the other midfielders are utilised. But certainly Diamandi for me is a number 8 that you can just go and ask him to go and press teams and get about people and get in people's faces. That, to me, is what he is. And he can be very useful in specific games, in specific circumstances. Is he the type of guy I would play at home to Livingston at Ibrox where you're trying to break down a 9-man defence? Probably not. But in terms of the squad, he's obviously a good guy to have around.
I said in this pod last week that if we were to go to Aberdeen and win, then I might dare to believe that we could actually win the league. I have to say I was really impressed, especially the second half performance. Sometimes I feel in Scotland, away games, the first half's always a bit mental. It always takes a while to kind of calm down. But once you settle into it, and I thought Rangers settled into it really well. It feels to me like the owners think the title's there to be won, given some of the names that have been bandied about, in the transfer window. We spoke a bit about Chukwueze from Sturm Graz. What can we expect from him, guys?
So we were over in Austria earlier on this season. I think just as Scott's saying there, somebody that'll bring a bit of power in the midfield. I think somebody that will bring probably a more defensive mindset. Somebody will just be aware, be more alert to
sniffing danger
coming about.
I don't think Rangers have got a player like that. I think Raskin can do that role sitting in midfield. Diamandi can do it. Times Barron can do it. I don't think any of them are really defensively minded in terms of sniffing it.
I think too often the trouble when you get Diamandi and Raskin being the sort of screens in front of the back 4, back 5, is that they're so eager to get after the ball. And you saw that definitely first half at Celtic. They get dragged out of shape and the back 4 the defence gets left exposed. So somebody that will just be more of a sitter, somebody that will just be a wee bit more disciplined in their approach and just won't vacate the spaces where you can play those channel balls into the striker. I think that's what really hurt Rangers at Parkhead in that first half. Celtic, it was so easy for them just to zip the ball into those 8 pockets outside the defence. And so, but obviously, it's £4 million. It's, it's another sizable fee for a club of Rangers size. having, was it £38 million, I think was the figure we've been told. It's what Rangers spent in the summer. Not what they brought. Obviously, they brought some more in. It's not the net figure, but £38 million. So £4 million for him. Talking about another three and a bit for Romans. Obviously, the talk of Scott Olsen looks like it's going to be a 6-month loan, but a sizable or a substantial 7-figure fee. You're talking maybe somewhere north of £1 million for 6 months. So, the chairman Andrew Kavanagh isn't scared to splash the cash, and obviously there's a big prize at the end of the big carrot at the end of the season. If Rangers can win the league, it looks like they would be pretty much guaranteed a Champions League slot because of their UEFA club ranking. So it's a huge prize there. That's why it looks like the Americans are basically going.
It's a risky strategy in some ways. January's not known for its value. I've got to say, from the names kind of bandied about, I've got some in front of me. Scott Olsen, wow, like I think that could be a game changer. Seems to be a few wingers we're after. Is it Ridgets? Hungarian boy as well. Is that saying that maybe Kasama's?
I wonder if he's just the second option if Scott Olsen doesn't go through. I think Scott Olsen's the number one pick for. He has been the number one pick for like 3-4 years. It seems he's been linked with Rangers. He had a terrific spell at Club Brugge. I don't think it's quite went so well from at Wolfsburg. I don't think injuries have been kind to him of late, which might be a concern given Rangers' current luck in that front. But as you saw, Rangers' luck with another winger for Wolfsburg last season, Václav Černý. I mean, like if he can come in and if he makes the kind of impact Černý did, I think that would be a terrific addition to this Rangers team.
Do you think we can win the league though? You said after Pittodrie you would.
I have to say, with the names getting bandied about, if we were to bring these guys in, and given that we are, Sunday was a wee moment for me. I felt that was the most comfortable we've been under role in a game. I thought it was the most complete performance yet. Parkhead is obviously the landmark result, if you like, but everyone knows the first half we get battered.
Yeah.
Even the game, we won 3-0 at Rugby Park. Never felt like 3-0 game. We did win 3-0 at Dundee. That was probably quite comfy. The game was probably over after 20 minutes, but I don't think we played particularly well. Thought everything about Sunday. We created chances, we were dangerous for set pieces. We never once felt like, big caveat on that. That's as poor an Aberdeen team as I can remember seeing. And if anything, they were worse on Sunday than they were on Tuesday.
I think speaking last week, we spoke about this, and I said as well I would wait. I'd keep my opinions to myself until after Sunday. And I think there's no doubt now that Rangers are genuine title contenders. I don't think you can dress up any other way. But what I do think, I think the weekend's results with Hearts and with Celtic shows you that really it's too close to call. I mean, Hearts that's a champion's performance they put in themselves. To go to Dens Park, down to 10 men, putting a goalkeeper at 43 that's kicked a ball this season pretty much, and take on to pull off that wonder save. I think that's the type of result that any Rangers team that won a league in the past would look at that kind of result and go, that was the kind of game that we took you a long way towards a title. And the Celtic, just obviously with Martin O'Neill coming in, they're such a different prospect they were under Wilfried Nancy. I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to be intriguing. I think it's going to be thrilling going all the way to the wire.
But that's why
the Rangers definitely.
That's why the Aberdeen victory was so crucial, because obviously Celtic Hearts have got a game midweek. Then Rangers' next league game at home to Dundee, which you'd expect them to win. At the same time, Hearts will play Celtic that day, so something's got to give there. So it was crucial that Rangers won that game at Pittodrie. And the other thing is, Billy, you were saying about waiting till after Sunday, but if you're a Celtic or Hearts fan, 3 weeks ago, just before Christmas, I think you'd have looked at Rangers fixtures and think, they've got St Mirren and Motherwell at home, Celtic away, Aberdeen twice. They'll definitely drop something. For Danny Rowe and the players to go and win 5 games, it's certainly a statement of intent. I think, as Andy says, there's just no denying the fact that they're title contenders now, especially if they go and strengthen as we expect them to.
It'll be interesting now to see how Hearts respond, because as much as they've been terrific this season, there's always felt there was a crisis at the two old hub clubs, and not that it allowed them to go under the radar, but they didn't really have that pressure, the heat of them sort of breathing right down their neck. Now Rangers are got the momentum Celtic, obviously, as I said, are a different prospect entirely. Martin O'Neill there, they'll be lifted by his return. You know, how are they now going to... I mean, we saw what happened to them in November, where they had a wee bit of wobble, and it was only because Celtic sort of loaded with the Wilfried Nancy appointment that they managed to get away with that, really. But, you know, it's going to be interesting. Now the heat is really on Hearts. They've got to handle this title pressure, and it's something, you know, that we all talk about. That's what always gives Celtic the edge over Rangers in the last few years, because they've got that title win experience. Hearts have never even been in a title race before, so this is in itself a fascinating aspect.
These games are going to be massive. I know it's an obvious thing, but between now and the end of the season, you think of Celtic Hearts games, Hearts Rangers, the Edinburgh Derby, the Old Firm. These games are going to be absolutely huge every week. It's going to be.
I mean, it's like nothing we've certainly people of our generation have ever seen before. This three-way tie. I mean, it's been.
I'm old enough to remember '98. So, and my issue is, of course, the Rangers have been here before, and we've not been able to get the job done. You know, under Clement that first year, we really should have went on and won the league. It felt. Although it's a completely different squad, so what do you think? That scar tissue's not there, but
mentality is a big question, isn't it? That is what's always been labelled against them, and it's a different group of players.
And it's also this same group of players only 2-3 months ago were having the mentality question. Now you're going, all right, they're on a roll now. So it could easily flip. One result could.
They've still got a lot to prove.
Yeah,
That's not. No, it's brilliant that they're back in the title race and they've done really well, but they've not achieved anything yet. And I suppose that is where mindset comes into it. If they start to believe, right, we've climbed the mountain already, then that's where it goes.
What I do think is important for Danny Rowe the last week has been is that coming into that game at Celtic, there was an argument made. He hadn't, as much as he'd done well, he hadn't won a big game yet. You know, hadn't made a dent in Europe. He's not really achieved much in Europe so far. You think about the Hearts game, lost the semi-final at Hampden. So the fact he gets that sort of monkey off his back at Celtic Park, and then you're going, well, as you say, these two games are banana skins. Rangers Aberdeen, has always got that added spice, that added edge to it. But the fact he's knocked it off pretty comfortably again, it's just, I think maybe the excitement would be spilling over a bit more if there was a wee bit more free-flowing aspect to it. But if you bring in a couple of these signings and if they can hit the ground running, I think that's the big thing is that the guys that came in the summer, and I'm sure Kevin Thelwell will be sitting somewhere in Merseyside right now going, well, I told you so. Some of the guys that he brought in are slowly but surely coming to the boil.
Fire.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Danny Rowe spoke about it, gave him a pat in the back at the weekend, but, there are the guys now that we were ready to write off, as I say, Asgard for one, Mikey Moore was one that was sort of panned very early on, are starting to show a wee bit about them. Manny Fernandez, guys that were right for the very awful question, has the transfer fee and why Rangers were signing a guy for Peterborough, but I think he's shown that he can play a part now. So, but the guys that come in, and as we've spoken about Giant, how difficult it is, especially those guys that maybe aren't playing for their clubs, you're getting somebody that's on the fringes of a Premier League club or a big club in Europe. Are they ready to go? Are they ready to come into the white heat of a title race? And these guys, they can't take 3-4 months to get up to speed. They need to come and hit the ground running.
It's amazing what a good manager and some victories can do. You look at the way the players celebrated the penalty, the Tavernier's goal the other night. They did look like a proper team. Yeah. They looked as if they had that bit between their teeth. And as Andy says, guys that have been completely written off, like your Shamitis and Fernandez and that, are now key players in the team, and that's where Rowe deserves massive credit. I was speaking to Sunday that night, just contrasting it with that Russell Martin tenure, and just how easy Rangers were to play against, how easy they were to get chances against. What he's done in terms of making them no harder to beat, the clean sheets, the addition of the set piece coach. I think his work so far has been incredible. And again, the caveat is he hasn't achieved anything yet. They're in a title race. Just now, Rangers fans still won't be happy if they end up third in this title race. I mean, if they said to somebody at the start of the season you'll be third, they'd have been aghast at that.
Is at the end of September? We might have to do
exactly. But that's where Rowe deserves massive credit.
It's also just Well, when you look back, you do look back at the Russell Martin era, if you want to call that 122 days, and you go, what was he playing at? I mean, like, just the nonsense nature of some of the football they were playing. I mean, just, of course, that was going to lead you into trouble. I mean, like,
Even the system, remember the two number 8s were like away wide. Raskin was at the left wing. It was just
there's so many games you would sit and watching at those early parts of the season, and the two wingers and the striker, they never saw the ball because the team just spent so much time knocking it about in the back and inviting trouble. I mean, like, it was the game, I think it was the Aberdeen game at home. Suter plays a ball at a defence. It was the first time I'd seen him play that kind of risky pass out for defence for weeks. They just, that kind of, Harry Carey, forget tiki taka, it was like Harry Carey football at times under Russell Martin. That's just been eradicated. They're not scared to go long. They've got a big physical presence up front now. They can bounce balls off a Chimity. He's finally worked out that he's allowed to use his body. He's allowed to contribute in a physical sense, and that's made all the difference. Yeah, you say he should have scored up at Pittodrie. Whether or not that comes, I'm still not to be convinced. But he's certainly not the anonymous sort of passenger he was a few weeks ago. And I just think that, as you say, Danny Rowe was. He talked about it last week at the press conference, just sort of stripping it back to basics. And it is that. I mean, it's not. I think you saw there was a couple of moments in the second half against Aberdeen at home where they had a really nice free-flowing move, and Raskin has a shot that the keeper tips round. It's the first sort of outbreaker proper football I'd seen for this Daniel team. I think that's what he'll want to get to right now, because of the players he's got and his own pragmatic approach. He's sensing and realising that I don't have to do too much to it. It's just get the ball into the right areas of the pitch and work from there, rather than try to, from nowhere, create this, reincarnation of Barcelona that Russell Martin seemed to be intent on doing.
That's been one of Rowe's biggest strengths, has been able to work with what he's got. And you think he's not been helped by injuries either. You think even last week, he started to get a bit of rhythm. They win the Old Firm game. He gets Dujon Sterling back for long-term injury, who has a real impact. His first couple of games that he plays, Connor Barron starts to really come into his own as a Rangers player, I think, in the last few games. And then bang, two of them are out injured. And I know Sterling's maybe knows he's not going to be out for as long as we initially thought, but he's constant. It's felt as if he's constantly having to rejig all the time and squeeze everything out of every player that he's got. So you would hope for his sake he starts to get a few back. Hopefully Sterling will be back shortly. Oliver Antman's come back on the bench. It remains to be seen what he looks like. I mean, he's another one, during that kind of early part of the season, despite a brilliant debut, had a real crisis of confidence. It was Danny Rowe's first game in Bergen against Brann that night. We were there and he had an absolute nightmare. Antman, I think he gives the ball away, leads to a free kick in a corner, and then they score, and then he gets hooked, and he gets injured. They're a kind of really bad start for him. It'll be interesting to see if Danny Rowe can instill the confidence in him that he has done in several other players, because we've yet to really see what Antman's going to bring. Is he good enough to be a Rangers player? Is he going to have an influence on this team? He's another one, £4 million top assist maker in the Eredivisie last season. So there's clearly a player in there. Can Rowe get it out? He certainly has with a few others, so you wouldn't even put it past him.
I probably owe Danny Rowe a bit of an apology. I've never ever really gave my opinion on how good a football manager is, but I thought he was doomed to fail with this group of players. I thought anyone who came in is just up against it.
I mean, that was kind of murmurs early on that he's not improving these players enough. And I think already you've seen Charity's gone up a level or two. Yeah. Mickey Moore undoubtedly has improved, as you say. Even Raskin, Diamande. I mean, definitely. I mean, that was the complaint against them, and the very small murmurs that were coming round about that Hearts defeat.
Yeah. Very briefly, looking forward, I think what Rangers now got is a wee opportunity, a wee 2 weeks to maybe get some more guys in and give them some meaningful game time without maybe the stress that might go with a league with Annan on Friday night, obviously, and then I'm calling it a dead rubber Europa tie. the week after.
I'm calling it. That's where I wrote my match report. We lost to Budapest.
But I think, there is a chance. I would expect to see Chuck Murray on Friday night.
Yeah.
You guys think we might see any other new faces?
Certainly led to believe that Tua Rollins is close to completing his deal. As I say, that'll be somewhere in the region about €3 million, I think, from Westerlo, sort of Belgian under 21 captain, left back. So he'll come in and, as you say, offer that wee bit of extra competition. I would expect he's coming in to start and take this off of a Magoma. So, who, as we said earlier, has done okay, but certainly at times has looked a wee bit lacking in experience. And then obviously the big one as well, get Scott Olsen over.
He has improved, Magoma, in the last few weeks.
I wonder if he's had an eye on the headlines that he's looking for a left back, and he's
potential. I just think in terms of the fans, we're speaking to a few guys I know, they're now looking at him and thinking, no, I'd like to keep this boy, even if it's his backup to Romans at left back. I don't think that was the case probably at the start. When he came in, he did look a bit naive, very inexperienced. He's obviously still young, maybe a bit lightweight.
It's a bit like the Mikey Moore situation in the sense that this loan spell, I think in years to come, you'll look back and go, that was important for me. That was a really key development stage for me.
100%. As I say, I don't think he's good enough to be first choice left back for Rangers. I think it's just clear. But
at 19, I'm saying that there's still solid.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's anywhere near ready to be if Rangers are going to win titles and trophies and that, I don't think he should be first choice left back for Rangers. However, he's shown me something in the last few weeks that suggests if you could get him, I'm assuming kind of cut price at the end of the season, and Romans establishes himself as the first choice left back. I think we know Romans is going to be a bit more physical, more powerful, more of a defensive minded player, which I think Rangers probably need at left back. Then Magoma as backup, I don't think it's that bad an option. So it'll be interesting to see how that situation develops.
What about the two fellas for Sunderland? Dan Neal's a name that seems to get guys quite excited.
Listen, I don't know if I'd go. They're definitely been spoken about, and I know that pretty well. I'm pretty confident that their names have been discussed. Whether or not they are again top of the wish list and moves are imminent, I'm not so sure it's at that stage. But they're certainly two players that Rangers are aware of and have been considered. I think if you're talking about Mundell, the winger,
Mundell's obviously on this list of wingers, and they've been in Hungarian.
I think Rangers are going to, from everything that we know and we've been told from the people we're speaking to, I think Scott Wilson is obviously number one. They're going to make a serious go at that. I think they're going to have to act quick because there's obviously other clubs that are interested in that. If they can get that tied up, then great. If not, they'll probably give it a certain period of time, a few days, and if it doesn't look like they're getting any encouragement in that front, then they'll probably move on.
I think you're right. These 2 weeks are crucial for them. I think Danny Rowe said maybe after the Aberdeen home game, you could tell he'd almost kind of pinpointed the Annan game that if we could get a couple of signings in, that was obviously the perfect game for them. I think he's obviously reluctant to get guys in late.
Still got to get a job done, of course.
Oh, of course, but in terms of if you get guys in late and they're immediately being thrown into a big league game, for instance, I think he had kind of earmarked that game just to, as I say, not to underestimate the tie, but just to almost bed them in. So I think he'll look to do that, obviously, with Chukwueze and hopefully Romans. But I just think, probably on the pitch and off it, if you like, it's a good kind of 2 weeks for the players. They'll obviously rest some against Annan, and then they don't play Dundee the following Sunday. And also off the pitch in terms of trying to get transfers done probably helps that they've got that week and a break. So I think in that sense, it is a really big 2 weeks for him. I think by the time he gets to the Dundee game, he'll probably want his kind of squad. He won't rule out anything really late in the window if something comes up. But I think ideally he'd like to get into that Dundee game with a couple of players back, a couple of new players settled in, ready to go again, attack the last part of the season.
It does also kind of feel like, obviously, we got the January break anymore. But this is certainly a period where I think the players will breathe a wee bit and let the shoulders drop a wee bit. And obviously it's a huge second half of the season. They're not going to have the added complication of Europe to contend with, but there is definitely going to be the pressure's going to be put back on. So I think this is about as good as Rangers could have hoped for in terms of not having to be going to focus on that load of game going. We need to get a result there. We need to go to Porto thinking there is a chance here now to go. Let's focus on a wee bit more work in the training ground, get these guys bedded in, and then we go again. And obviously Celtic have still got a sniffer of qualifying. They don't really have that added luxury. They've obviously go to Bologna. It's going to be a tough game for them. You never know how you're up against a big Serie A side if they if they can get a big win, and does that dent confidence? We've seen how European results can bleed into domestic form as well. Obviously Hearts don't have that added complication either. So as I say, I think the second half of the season is shaping up to be fascinating. I can really see it going right down to the wire. I think it's going to be a season for the ages.
That'll be exciting.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Obviously, from my point of view, hopefully Rangers come out victorious. There's certainly reasons for optimism, and I never even get a chance to rant about Manny Fernandez's perfectly good goal that was chopped off on Sunday.
Scandalous.
I know you disagree, Andy, but
I'm saying I think it's the goalie's fault. But I think as the letter of the law, but I think that's not to say I agree with the law. I think the goalie comes, if your goalie comes 15 yards off his line and doesn't take the ball, then you've got to point fingers at him. But unfortunately, the rule book as it stands lacks common sense. So.
I think there was a few Rangers fans actually wanted to sign that goalie a couple of years ago, so I think
that would not be hard.
dodged a bullet there. Anyway, listen, thanks very much for joining us. You can listen to the podcast in all the usual places, Spotify and Apple and whatnot. And hopefully next week we'll have a few new signings to discuss and see what happens from there. Cheers.